Certainly. Here's the complete translation of chapter 421 from Return to the Immortal Path, with Takwanmanchu replaced with Heavenly Mind Control, and other terms translated into their proper English meanings. Minus. Return to the Immortal Path Regressor'S chapter 421. The Broken Ones won. Whoosh. Daynok had grown to a level that could potentially erase an entire region with its immense power. As I unleashed that terrifying energy at a single point, Sokil appeared behind me, grinning mockingly. What is it now? I asked, turning to face him. In the past, I would have been anxious about falling victim to his heavenly mind control, but now I no longer felt that fear. Sokil seemed to sense this change in me, and was now openly trying to brainwash me with heavenly mind control. It's futile. Stop your pointless antics and just reveal your purpose. Hee hee, how amusing. You used to be such a good person, it's quite tragic how you've changed, it's almost heartbreaking. His words made my eyes narrow. That was just a ploy to probe my feelings. But there was truth in what he said. My heart was in ruins and my soul felt like nothing but charred remains. Why wasn't I afraid of Sokil's heavenly mind control? Was it because I had obtained Jowanmancho? Because I possessed my Olbyoksen? Because I had gained the possibility of Hojian IBO? Those were merely external factors. The truth was singular. Now I too had become a broken human just as much as the monsters and Sokil himself. Just shut up and tell me why you're here, you pitiful leech, I growled. Whoosh. I swung my hand to strike at Sokil. However, even as he was cut down, he seemed to dissipate into the air, only to reappear elsewhere. Is this an illusion? No, it feels too real to be just an illusion. Sokil's body remained where I had struck him. But suddenly, I realized something was off about the state of the body, and I understood the principle behind how he appeared before me like a phantom. His corpse is only tethered to the realm of energy. Everything in the world exists across the three realms of energy, spirit, and light. This applied even to inanimate objects. Soil has essence, mountains have spirits, and stars have souls. Even lifeless objects reside within the realm of spirit, and as one proceeds through the veins of energy, everything also exists in the realm of light. Yet before me, it seemed that only the flow of yin and yang in the realm of energy constituted Sokil's corpse. Oh, High SEO must have lent you her powers to send forth this projection, hasn't she? It was undoubtedly Oh Haiso's strength. Sokil smiled brightly at my deduction. As expected, you are indeed SEO Du Wu. That's correct, she aided me. If she was coming, she should have come along. With her personality, she wouldn't have passed up a chance to witness such an entertaining spectacle. Recalling the first time I was betrayed by Oh High SEO, I remembered how she seemed to chase after stimulation and excitement. Given the current destruction of the celestial realm by Kang Minhee, it would have made sense for her to come and watch, yet her presence was nowhere to be sensed within hundreds of thousands of li. It seems that after our last encounter, she has come to understand the concept of fear a little better. Indeed, at this point, Oh High SEO had likely sensed the terrifying presence of the chief judge. No matter how unreadable her emotions might be, it was hard to look directly at the power of a transcendent being. Thanks to that, she has become quite dependent on me recently. We have become essential to each other. I recalled the timeline 1,000 years later. She was referred to as my wife. It seemed that Sokil and Oh High SEO had indeed married. At that time I thought she had been brainwashed, but it appeared that fate had somehow intertwined their paths. So what do you want from me? I asked, my voice laced with skepticism. I glared at Sokil, my frustration boiling over. Gurgle, gurgle. As my emotions flared, I felt something within my shadow thrashing about, as if trying to escape. My heart demons seemed to be manifesting from the curse, attempting to flee from me. Originally, she and I maintained a simple utilitarian relationship. We were both preparing to betray one another while experimenting on each other. However, after my vision was sealed and she suffered mental wounds, we became necessary allies. I narrowed my eyes at Sokil's words. Those who have lost their blessings can indeed come together to fill each other's voids. You and I, with minds as broken as Joe Noya's, we could become allies to mend each other's deficiencies. I laughed at his words. That sounds a lot like you're admitting to having feelings. Haha, do you really think I lack feelings? I perceived the hidden will behind Sokil's words. Feelings can either exist or not, depending on necessity. Right now, he needed to persuade me, so he was feigning positivity about feelings. In the past, I would have recognized this and dismissed it. Sokil was a monster devoid of feelings. But now, having reached my current state, I saw something different. After enduring countless years of suffering, having been broken once, I could understand. Sokil might be a being that desperately needed to deny the existence of feelings. Feelings are undoubtedly sacred and beautiful, yet they can also bring forth hellish pain. If he was as broken as I was, perhaps his reason for denying feelings was to escape this torment more than anyone else. I smiled bitterly as I perceived Sokil's essence. I understand. Now speak, pitiful Sokil. I will listen to you, if only for a moment. I spoke to him with a tone of pity, and I wondered what my sympathy had touched within him. He stopped smiling and opened his eyes. His gaze was cloudy as if he couldn't determine where to look. At first glance, his eyes appeared devoid of emotion, sending chills down my spine, but I understood that my act of sympathy had struck deeper than any provocation I had ever directed at Sokil. He ceased smiling and seemed to focus on my direction. You truly are a remarkable person, SEO Duwu. To what extent have you perceived? I've realized that you are somewhat of a pitiable existence. In that case, it should be easier to talk. Sokyul turned his expressionless face and pointed toward Kang Minhee, who was flying toward us. Initially, I thought it would be better to let that being rampage. However, seeing her unexpected strength changed my mind. While some chaos is needed for my purpose, total destruction is not. So how about we join forces to expel her beyond the realm of light? I contemplated Sokyul's proposal. Under normal circumstances, I would have dismissed such a suggestion as worthless, but this time was different. If we could expel Kang Minhee to the void realm or the celestial realm, the casualties would be significantly reduced. In truth, the celestial realm was the domain of the vast majority. The mid-realm was merely a body of a great being, influencing the entire celestial realm due to its gravitational pull. It could never compare in size to the infinitely expanding universe of the celestial realm. The reason I was able to gather pieces of the colorless glass sword in the last round was that it had occurred shortly after the creation of the world. If it had been tens of thousands of years later, I would never have been able to find any fragments. In that sense, expelling Kang Minhee to the infinitely vast celestial realm, or the desolate void realm, would indeed minimize casualties. At the very least, sending her beyond the realm of light could buy me time until I attempted to ascend to the Stargate level. Your proposal is good, but as Kang Minhee drew closer, I asked while retreating. Sokyul, perhaps fused with the very essence of the dragon vein through Ohaiso's help, continued to speak with me while revealing his projection from the land where the dragon vein resided. How do you realistically plan to expel the Stargate level Kang Minhee from the realm of light? I will draw her out from the celestial realm together with my wife. You just need to push her. Is Ohaiso currently in the celestial realm? I asked, my expression serious. I don't think she'll go quietly into the celestial realm. You must have a plan. Yes, well, it wasn't my intention, but somehow a being capable of restraining her when she struggles has been born. You don't mean? I let out a hollow laugh as I looked at Sokyul. I can guess what you're speculating. Yes, that's exactly it. You're suggesting we join forces with the monster to restrain her. I questioned, dumbfounded. At this point, the monster had two bodies at the level of the separated beings. Her and the Daimyo Sonke were precisely that. Thanks to the connection between the monster and her, it was possible to exhibit power at the level of a sub-Stargate even now. Moreover, in the timeline 1,000 years later, both her and the Daimyo Sonke would rise to sub-Stargate levels, meaning that the monster would possess two sub-Stargate level beings. From a power standpoint, if Sokyul, the monster, and I joined forces, expelling Kang Minhee from the realm of light was not an impossible feat. But the monster was unpredictable. How could I convince such a being? Sokyul continued. First of all, SEO Duwu, you are aware of the name and ability of the secret technique I use, correct? Yes. With my heavenly mind control, I cannot brainwash either you or the monster. Both of you are deranged, so even if I attempt to instill my arrangement, it wouldn't take hold because your consciousness isn't normal. However, the inability to brainwash does not equate to saying that my heavenly mind control cannot penetrate. What are you trying to say? You are a being of the heart, correct? And you have his disciple, who has learned the mental techniques of the monster, as an ally. If you, I, and your allies combine our powers, we can temporarily restore the monster's consciousness to normal. If I, Kim-Yo, Ohaiso, and Sokyul join forces, we can restore the monster's consciousness to normal. That sounded suspicious. Isn't there a guarantee that you won't try to brainwash the monster while you have the chance? You need not worry about that. I won't brainwash the monster. After all, it's impossible. I felt a bit relieved as I read the hidden meaning behind Sokyul's words. Perhaps even if the monster's madness is temporarily reversed, due to the Daimyo Sonke, the madness would likely resurface. So even if Sokyul tries to brainwash, it would be futile. But I couldn't be sure. Sokyul was a being capable of hiding his true intentions. How can I trust you? It's a fact I learned by interpreting the curse placed upon me along with my wife. The curse from the great being has not only blinded my vision, but has also prevented me from finding my true self. I instinctively sensed the truth in Sokyul's words. It wasn't merely because his actions aligned with his thoughts. It was because he had never lied about his essence. With his next words, I felt my eyes widen. Therefore, I propose this, SEO Duwu. After we expel that being from the realm of light, please assist me in regaining my true self. It was an opportunity to help Sokyul find his true self. His expressionless face transformed back, and he smiled brightly. Until I find my true self, I will never betray you, SEO Duwu. Minus. If there's anything else you need or any other requests, feel free to let me know. Return to the Immortal Path Webusu Sunshon, Chapter 422. The Broken Ones 2. Cuckoo. Behind me, Kang Minhee relentlessly pursued while beside me, Sokyul flicked his tongue and presented dubious propositions. I focused my gaze on Sokyul. I was well acquainted with this individual. Regardless of the circumstances, he was a deceiver who spoke nothing but empty words. That was the essence of Sokyul. But I found myself unable to refuse. The knowledge regarding Sokyul's true form, and the reprieve I could gain by expelling Kang Minhee beyond the boundaries of the realm of light. Each of these elements held far too much significance to disregard. They were far too valuable to dismiss as mere trickery. Thus the reason the monster always interrupted Sokyul when he spoke was perhaps due to the understanding that if it listened to Sokyul's proposal, it could be led astray by his intentions. I glared at him with a low growl. However, he was blind, rendering any sort of staring contest between us futile. After a moment of contemplation, I nodded. Very well. I shall accept this for the time being. Thank you, Du-Wu. But there is a condition. I fixed my gaze on Sokul, my expression stern. According to your assertion, we must unite our strength to help the monster regain its clarity, correct? During this process, you must act remotely and remain out of my sight. Should he encounter my companions and employ that vile heavenly mind control upon them, I would be consumed by fury. If my companions were to be brainwashed by Sokul. Crack. The mere thought of it made my teeth clench. I could no longer afford to lose my companions recklessly. If such an occurrence took place, I might lose control of my rage and not even recognize what I would do next. Perhaps I might even lose my senses and begin reciting the forbidden incantations until the master of the mountain descends. At my words, Sokul smiled and nodded. If it is necessary, I will comply. Do not fret. After all, until I locate my true form, I must depend on you and Lady Ohio. The fact that only two choices existed indicated that there was no trust between us. A highly dubious and suspicious alliance. Yet it was essential in the current situation. Understood. Then I shall temporarily form an alliance with you. I thank you in advance, Du-Wu. He smiled broadly, exuding a sense of satisfaction. By the way. I frowned as I glanced at Kang Min-hee, who was in hot pursuit. To reach the monster, we must first separate it from its pursuer. Is there no possible method? To expel Kang Min-hee beyond the realm of light, we would require the monster's assistance. However, to persuade the monster, Sokul, Kim Young and Ohio would need to consolidate our strength first. Yet Kang Min-hee was chasing me with fervor. At this rate, we wouldn't even be able to initiate an alliance. It is highly probable that she is pursuing me, drawn by the aura of death and the power of the semi-transcendental level that I emit. Especially for a formidable spirit like her, my aura of death would be exceedingly conspicuous. Unless I manage to evade her line of sight, she will relentlessly pursue me. Given the circumstances, I sought Sokul's cunning to test his wits. He appeared to smile and said, I possess a plan that can grant you sufficient time to rendezvous with your companions. Would you care to hear it? Speak swiftly. Proceed to the Gungan fortress. You scoundrel. I comprehended what Sokul was insinuating and widened my eyes. He smiled and continued with his explanation. Make your way to the Gungan fortress, lure her there, and then cast her below the Gungan bridge. Since she appears to lack intelligence, it should not prove difficult. The spirits in the void realm respond more fervently to beings of great power, so even the spirits at the semi-transcendental level will likely rush toward her. Naturally, the Gungan bridge is an open passage, allowing her to escape quickly, but the spirits from the void realm will buy you some time. Are you suggesting we cast everyone in Gungan fortress into the maw of the pursuer? Sokul adopted a contemplative expression and then inquired. Isn't that preferable? I believe you are not on amicable terms with the master of Gungan fortress, Tai Su Haiwan. Rather than being swayed by Sokul's words, I shot him a glare. Cease your devious tongue and assist me. It is likely that you have employed heavenly mind control on the beings residing in Gungan fortress due to your abilities and greed. Utilize your powers to evacuate all of them to another location immediately. Hee. At my words, Sokul smiled and raised a finger. As anticipated, Du-Wu is quite the challenge. However, it is impossible to evacuate everyone. What nonsense is that? The master of Gungan fortress, Haiwan. He is the sole individual, he is the only one who harbors perilous thoughts within his consciousness, so I merely infused him with heavenly mind control without brainwashing him. Therefore, you must persuade him directly. I recalled Haiwan. The name Chanra associated with Haiwan. Damn. A sense of dread washed over me. I did not know precisely what that name signified. Yet even a child could discern that the name was related to the master of the mountain. Perhaps Chanra was the divine envoy of the mountain. I wished to delegate such dangers to Sokul, but it appeared I would have to confront it myself. Understood. I cursed inwardly and descended toward Gungan fortress alongside Sokul. Haiwan was unsettling. From the Khan character that hung over his eyes to the mastery of Tai Mountain's heat control he possessed. It was possible that through him, the master of the mountain could surveil me in real time. Yet it was precisely because of this that I needed to gather further intelligence regarding him. I proceeded toward Gungan fortress to ascertain Haiwan's current state. And in accordance with Sokul's plan to bind Kang Min-hee's movements. Cuckoo. After flying for approximately half a day, the distant Gungan fortress came into view. It is surprisingly swift. Previously, it would have taken several days to traverse from the human territory to the Gungan fortress at the speed of a Taisu. However, now that I had reached the semi-transcendental level, by combining techniques such as teleportation, gliding, and sword flight, I arrived at the Gungan fortress from the human territory in nearly half a day. Of course. The same applies to Kang Min-hee. Kang Min-hee was pursuing me in a straight line, absorbing the souls of all beings in her path to augment her power and convert them into her followers. While she had not absorbed as many souls as when we were in the human territory, her size was steadily increasing. Cuckoo. It was not merely her size. I could perceive her speed gradually increasing as well. I cast a glance back at the dark storm that pursued me and hastened toward Gungan fortress. For half a day, I had been relentless, with the goal of arriving at Gungan fortress slightly ahead of Kang Min-hee. I managed to reach Gungan Fortress just before her. Now in just a moment, Kang Minhee will arrive. My confrontation with Haiyan had to be resolved within that fleeting instant. Woo. Perhaps due to Sokyul's heavenly mind control, everyone had evacuated. Gungan Fortress lay in silence. However, I frowned as I sensed the powerful presence emanating from the heart of Gungan Fortress. Despite Sokyul's heavenly mind control having persuaded him, Haiyan remained steadfast in his position. Bam. Zzzzzzzzzzzzz. With a gesture, a vast sword energy erupted, cleaving through the fortress walls and crashing into the chamber where Haiyan resided. Cuckoo. As Gungan Fortress crumbled, I gazed down into Haiyan's meditation chamber. He appeared as he had during our previous encounter. Clad in the same purple ceremonial robe, with disheveled hair protruding from beneath his cap, he looked worn. Yet one aspect had changed since our last meeting. Swish. He lifted his gaze to meet mine. I clicked my tongue as I regarded him. How did you find yourself in such a state, Master of Gungan Fortress? Haiyan's eyes, unlike before, had lost their brilliance. The bright mark of the Kang character had entirely dimmed, leaving only darkness. It seemed to relate to the Master of the Mountain being ensnared by the light. He appeared to have completely lost his sight, as his focus was not directed at me. However, even if he had lost his sight, he still retained awareness, so he was cognizant of my presence despite his vacant stare. I do not know. I abruptly lost my sight some time ago. The reason eludes me. Did your subordinates not inform you? A fearsome spirit approaches Gungan Fortress. Yet Haiyan merely smiled faintly. What can I do about it? If it is stronger than I shall perish. If I am stronger, I shall capture it. You certainly cannot capture it. Evacuate swiftly. No. He smiled grimly with dull eyes. Regardless, you and that Jin Young Hun fellow failed to adequately guard the Golden Divine Thundergate. Ever since the moment the Golden Divine Thundergate vanished from the human territory, I have honestly felt no desire to live any longer. Yes, I have lived long enough. The Taisu involved in the amalgamation is aware in secret. In 10,000 years, this world shall meet its demise. I have no impetus to continue living, and in 10,000 years it will all conclude, so what purpose does it serve to prolong my existence? He turned his head and declared, I will remain here recuperating, hoping for a miracle in which the disciples of the Golden Divine Thundergate ascend. If your message is merely to evacuate, then be gone. I have no desire to face you. I regarded him for a while. And then, who? I approached Haiyan. I can no longer endure your words. I growled and seized Haiyan by the collar. Speaking of the Golden Divine Thundergate's destruction, attributing blame to me or Jin Young Hun, claiming you lack the will to live, you are merely selecting the most irksome phrases. Can't you release me? I possess but a moment, yet that should suffice. For the next moment, I shall remedy your decayed psyche, you shall experience pain akin to death, and your will to survive shall undoubtedly be rekindled. You youthful brat who hasn't even reached 1,000 years, do you truly comprehend the agony of loss? He smirked down at me. It appears you erroneously believe your prowess to be exceptional, convinced you have become an amalgamation in just 500 years. Do you presume yourself the protagonist of this world? Do you think you comprehend all the miseries and sufferings that plague this existence and dare to lecture me? Do not be mistaken. You are merely a child who has yet to experience even 1/10 of my life. The torment you have endured pales in comparison to the suffering I know. Cuckoo. Haiyan's weight began to feel increasingly burdensome. The force he exerted upon me started to escalate. Release me and depart. Whether I live or die is my own affair. You ought to have lost your tongue rather than your sight. I glared fiercely at Haiyan and relinquished my grip. My perspective has shifted slightly. You are about to endure a pain that will render even death as mercy. You insolent brat, you intend to exploit my frail state at that time to assert it as my strength. Haiyan began to summon the Tai Mountain's heat control and extended his hand toward me. In the next instant, I shattered his Tai Mountain's heat control effortlessly and seized his face, slamming him down. The entirety of Gungan Fortress splintered into fragments with a single blow. Minus. Return to the Immortal Path, Waibusu Sunjun, Chapter 423. The Broken Ones 3. Korong. The entire Gungan Fortress crumbled, and the surrounding barriers shattered simultaneously. Beneath those barriers, the ethereal realms began to reveal themselves. It was reminiscent of the scene when Haiyan unleashed Tai Mountain's heat control in the vicinity. However, the key difference was that while Haiyan employed that miraculous technique, I simply grasped Haiyan's face and thrust him downwards. You. He growled, summoning his strength. Spatial waves resonated from within him, causing his form to swell gradually. Haiyan was revealing his true body. The mass of his being pushed me momentarily upwards into the sky. Cuckoo. In the next instant, he transformed into a mountain. Rock, soil, and trees erupted from his body. Springs and streams emerged, concealing vast veins of ore, while molten lava surged within the enormous mountain that had risen. This mountain, imbued with the essence of the 5 elements, loomed like a giant, glaring down at me. The mountain giant was in fact Haiyan's true form. Unified domain. Tai Mountain's great dust tornado bird. Cuckoo. His body morphed into a domain, simultaneously attempting to envelop the surroundings. Haiyan's domain resembled a desolate island. Inside his domain lay a void filled with countless islands floating in the air. Within this void, innumerable dust storms raged, transforming into cutting winds that tore apart everything within Heinwon's reach. He raised his mountain-like body at the center of this dust storm, directing a fierce aura toward me. Let us settle the score we left unfinished back then, Seo Yunhyun. If you wish to confront me, you must trample over my corpse. And in the next moment, Kukwagwagwang. With a single strike, Heinwon's upper body shattered and flew away, while the shockwave emitted from my punch obliterated his entire domain in an instant. It seems you are under some misapprehension. I illuminated my eyes with a fierce glow as I glared at Heinwon, suspended in the realm of extreme time. You are currently no match for me, Heinwon. Without revealing my true form or summoning the colorless glass sword or the domain, I merely manifested the Santiagic three-element symbol behind me. Just a moment ago, you were but a mere second. Boom. Having moved above Heinwon, I bent my legs and then thrust them powerfully down upon his regenerating belly. Quick-erong. This moment, Heinwon's body was pierced cleanly, and the shockwave left a trail of devastation throughout his domain. He attempted to confront me with the power of his divine nature, using the technique of teleportation and the combined strength of heaven and earth. My body collided with his. 3-4 seconds. After 2 collisions, Heinwon's fists were severed, and his upper body was once again severely damaged. To subdue amalgamations, one must shatter their domains. Celestial beings are vulnerable to domain breaches, while earthly beings can be defeated by destroying their physically merged forms. But what of the celestial and earthly duality? How troublesome. In the case of these beings, even if one were to destroy their domain, as long as their physical form remained intact, the domain would regenerate. Conversely, if their body were destroyed but their domain remained unharmed, they would resurrect. Both the physical form and the merged domain must be obliterated simultaneously. It was indeed a nuisance. And that was all there was to it. 5, 6, 7 seconds. With one strike, I attacked his domain. With the second, I targeted his physical form, and with the third, I aimed for his soul, completely overpowering him. Yet, despite his decay, he was not without merit. In an instant, he cloaked the area in a protective barrier of yin and yang, infusing it with the essence of the 5 elements. His intent was to unleash the Tai Mountain's heat control upon the surroundings. But it was futile. I gripped a black flag in my hand. Gulp, gulp. This was no ordinary flag. From the surface of the flag, dark eyes writhed, and fearful entities emerged, yearning to escape. Writhe. What I held in my hand constantly squirmed, attempting to grow. If I thrust this into him, he will surely perish. The cursed spirit vessel, which intuitively expressed my own rotting insides, had long since surpassed its limitations. The agony condensed within was so intense that even my spirit companions would wish to flee. If I were to pierce Heinwon with such a vessel, I surmised that no matter how powerful an amalgamation he was, he would lose his mind and have his soul dissipate. I would dare to say that even the great celestial beings would lose their sanity upon fully experiencing this. Let's reduce the intensity a bit. Satsu, satsu, satsu. I siphoned the poison from the flag and thrust the now nearly empty black spirit vessel straight into Heinwon's chest. Hook. And that was the end of it. As Heinwon, who sought to unleash the Tai Mountain's heat control upon the area, began to tremble in fear, he could not even scream. As his concentration faltered, his domain shattered, transforming him back into his human form. Whoosh. I worried that if I kept this within him, Heinwon might go mad, so I dispersed the black spirit vessel. However, even as the remnants of the vessel lingered to torment him, he began to weep blood from his eyes and foam at the mouth. Slap, slap. I struck Heinwon's cheek. 8, 9 seconds. Crack. 10 seconds. Gah. Ugh, ugh, At long last, Heinwon regained his senses and let out a groan. I looked down at him and smirked. It's 10 seconds of clarity. Do you understand? That is the gap between you and me. I continued to gaze at him. He clenched his teeth and spoke. Why is this happening, you? Don't you dislike me? Whether I perish or not, what does it matter to you? Did my provocation strike a nerve? Am I ruffling your feathers? Why can't you just leave me be? Why? I regarded him with calm indifference. After about 5 seconds of his frenzied outburst, he exhaled and opened his mouth. Didn't anyone ever want to dream of happiness and live with hope? I too wish to have hope in life. But after witnessing my lover being devoured alive, I lost all sense of purpose. Even if I live, I am not truly alive. So why are you bothering me like this? I have no intention of engaging in a debate with you. Whether you live or die is of no concern to me. Your death would actually be beneficial to me. I already know that it is meaningless to repeatedly shout live at those who wish to die. Then why? The part that angers me is your irresponsibility. I spat those words out while gazing down at him with icy eyes. You are a father, are you not? Though born of a concubine, how many children do you have? How many follow you? You who bear the weight of a collective upon your shoulders should not recklessly abandon everything simply because you are in pain. Kwong. I stomped on Heinwon's chest. He coughed up blood. Knowing he would regenerate, I trampled him mercilessly, grinding my teeth in frustration. And as I spoke those words, I came to realize something. The reason I had suddenly become enraged with Heinwon. No matter how much he had said to provoke me, the escalating fury I felt toward him stemmed from a deeper place. It was perhaps because I saw my own reflection in him. When he mentioned the Golden Divine Thundergate, a name flashed through my mind. That name was Yonwei. Yonwei and Heinwon. And the hidden feelings of Yonwei that I had witnessed on Mount Bongley. She claimed to despise Hein Wan, yet beneath that facade, she still yearned for him. And as I recalled that, another figure came to mind. Hein Wei, who had struggled her entire life for Hein Wan's attention along with her siblings. Hein Wan's children. The disciples of the Golden Divine Thundergate who followed him. Hein Wan was, albeit unknowingly, a beloved figure. He was someone who received attention, admiration, and respect. And I had seen my own image reflected in him. What I was trampling upon was not merely Hein Wan. I was perhaps projecting my anger onto him, recalling my past self, who had been adored and loved by countless individuals yet failed to protect that love. Move. For the sake of those who care for you. Even if destruction is imminent, do not give up. I conveyed my fury both toward myself and Hein Wan. He remained silent and I offered him one last word of encouragement. Though it is imperfect, if you truly wish, I can provide a way for you to see the face of the one you loved. Stand up and help. At my words, his eyes widened and he sprang up, grasping my shoulder. What? We can utilize the peculiar essence of the mystical realm. Now release my shoulder. I will explain later. I pushed Hein Wan away and turned to face the approaching Kang Min-hee. Sokil. Hee, what brings this about? Su Du Wu. Take him with you and descend to the upper reaches of the realm of light. I understand perfectly. He approached Hein Wan, soothing him as they ascended to the upper reaches of the realm of light in accordance with my request. And there I waited Kang Min-hee, standing atop the now ruined barriers, where the true structure of the ethereal realms had been revealed. Cuckoo. The echoes of despair filled the atmosphere as she finally reached this location. From the profound darkness. Crackle. I immediately discerned Kang Min-hee's position within that darkness. The oldest being I encountered while tracking the cycle of rebirth. The darkness enveloping her was significantly more distinct than the one I had previously witnessed. Crying. I drew the luminous sword of the celestial arch and hurled it directly at Kang Min-hee. Flash. The slender blade, transformed into a beam of light, sped toward her, aiming directly in front of her. It struck something akin to a protective barrier. As expected, penetrating in a single strike is not possible. She halted and glared at me. I met her gaze with a confident smile. Power. The sword lodged before her ignited, transforming into a clone of itself. Through this clone, I launched another strike right in front of her. The clone lacked sufficient energy and morphed into a form resembling a radiant orb. Kapwagwagwang. Her upper body exploded, and in that moment of distraction, Hein Wan, who had ascended alongside Sokil, enveloped the area in a barrier of yin and yang per Sokil's directive. Did I perform this way? I clasped my hands together to concentrate. Internally, I recited the incantation of the twisted forbidden technique without forming a connection with it, while simultaneously invoking the incantation that it had taught me. Where the radiant clone had struck Kang Min-hee. In that very spot, I summoned the radiant clone. That radiant clone began to converge, narrowing the barrier of yin and yang. Although it still fell short of true mastery, its shape was somewhat similar. Annihilation, law, true word. Cuckoo. The barrier of yin and yang that enveloped the area began to contract, centering around the radiant form before Kang Min-hee. Though it was a twisted incantation, its effects were undeniably potent. Gradually, the density of the celestial energies within the barrier increased, flooding the surroundings with light. RHHH. Kang Min-hee screamed in anguish, attempting to shatter this prism transformed into light, but it was of no use. No matter how powerful she was, this barrier that I had summoned with Hein Wan's combined strength would remain intact. Before I knew it, the barrier had shrunk to a size smaller than my own range, ultimately becoming a sphere that enclosed only Kang Min-hee. Of course, that was not the end. At that moment, I realized that I could not reduce it to the size of mere dust, as I had done previously. That was my own limitation. Whoosh. Immediately before the sphere created by the incantation of annihilation could dissipate, I summoned the Santiagic and lunged forward, striking the sphere containing Kang Min-hee down toward the ethereal realm. Kapwagwagwang. I felt an immense resistance from within. In an instant, it seemed she would burst forth, but she was a moment too late. She had already been cast out of the ethereal realm by me. Of course, blocking the ethereal realm was impossible, so she would eventually return. However, for at least a month, she would be occupied dealing with the spirits of the void realm, and would not be able to ascend again. I will see you later, Kang Min-hee. I looked down, steadying the shivers that arose from my sense of revulsion. I truly did not want to engage in this. While the twisted incantation of annihilation might prevent a connection with the master of the mountain, it nonetheless stirred up some of my most painful memories. But there was no alternative. As I had just shouted at Hein Wan, just as Hein Wan bore the burden of Bongli Palace upon his shoulders. Now the burden of my remaining comrades rested upon mine. I had to stop Kang Min-hee at all costs. If my own feelings of revulsion are the issue, I will disregard them as many times as necessary. Even though it was an excruciatingly painful memory, I could still bring it forth. If that could serve as